Let's talk about factoring trinomials. The first thing you want to do is make sure your trinomial is in standard form. The standard form of a trinomial is actually called standard quadratic form, which we'll talk more about later, but it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So you want to put your squared term first, the one with x, which is called our linear term, second, and the constant term third. Usually they're written this way, but if they're not, you want to make sure they're in that form before you get started. And then step one is the most important step. You want to find the pair of integers whose product is c, which is your constant term, and whose sum is b, your linear term's coefficient. And so we would set up to figure out these numbers. We'll do this on our examples in just a minute, so you'll see what that stands for. The second step would just simply be to write out the factors using your pair of numbers that you found. And then the third step would be that you could check your answer using the FOIL method if you have time and you need to. But checking your work is always a good idea. So for example 1, we have x squared plus 4x plus 3. So we want to set up to find numbers that will multiply to equal c, which is our 3, and we'll add together to equal b, which in this case is 4. So we think about what numbers would give us 3. Only 1 times 3 and negative 1 times negative 3, those are our two options. We need to add up to be positive 4, so 1 and 3 would be our best pair of integers. So we have 1 and 3. So to write your answer, we're just going to rewrite x squared plus 4x plus 3 as x plus 1 times x plus 3, which is its factored form. And if we multiply it together, we get the original form. Now let's look at example 2. Y squared minus 16y plus 28. So we need to multiply to get 28, which is our c. We need to add to get negative 16, which is the b value. So we need to come over here and come up with factors of 28. Now if you notice, we've got to add up to be negative 16. So we're going to need to think about negative factors of 28, because otherwise they wouldn't add up to be a negative number. So negative 1 times negative 28 would equal positive 28, but they won't add up to negative 16. Negative 2 times negative 14. Those will multiply to be 28, and they also will add to be negative 16. So we don't need to go any further. We can put them over here and just double check. Negative 2 times negative 14 does give us positive 28, and negative 2 plus negative 14 does add up to give us negative 16. So to write our answer, we need to break it up into y minus 2 and y minus 14. Notice I only put one y there and one y in this parentheses, because if we FOIL them, we would get back y squared. Factoring and multiplying are opposites. So you can always check as you go and make sure you can multiply to go right back where you started from. Because factoring is rewriting an expression and it's equivalent to the one you started with. So for example 3, we have m squared minus 18m plus 45. So we want to multiply to get 45. We need to add to get negative 18. So similar to example 2, we need to think about 45 and what will multiply to be 45, but we have to add up to get a negative number. So these need to be negative numbers over here, so they add up to be a negative number. So we have negative 1 times negative 45. That would multiply to give me positive 45. Negative 2 won't work. We have negative 3 times negative 15. Those look good. They will add to give me negative 18. So negative 3 times negative 15 multiplies to give me positive 45, and negative 3 plus negative 15 will add to give me negative 18. So we simply write our answer with the right variable, m minus 3 and m minus 15. Now let's look at example 4. So this one has a positive and a negative. Let's look at what happens. We have to multiply to get negative 40, and we need to add to get 6, a positive 6. So thinking about what would multiply to give me negative 40, and it's got to add up to be positive 6. So it might just be best to factor 40 and see which one would help me, which pair of numbers is going to help me get 6. And then I could see which one needs to be negative after that. So we have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 doesn't go evenly, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, 6 won't go, 7 won't go, 8 won't go, except for we did write 8 already. So once you come back to where you started from, you're done factoring that number. So we've got all of our factors. Now you see which one would help me get 6. So 1 and 40 are too far away from each other. 2 and 20 again are too far away from each other to get 6. But 4 and 10 are just the right amount apart. They're 6 units apart. So we need to see which one would have to be a negative so that they'll add up to be positive 6. So 4 would make sense as the negative number, and that way it multiplies to be negative 40, and it'll add up to be 6. So I've got negative 4 times 10, let's check. That'll multiply to be negative 40, and negative 4 plus 10 will add up to give me 6. So we write down our factors. We have k minus 4 and k plus 10. And again, if we wanted to check our answer, we could just FOIL these back together and make sure that we come back to where we started from.